Greetings, YouTube. Recently, an article has been working its way around the blog sphere. It concerns the city of Bozeman, Montana, which is currently asking those applying for jobs to list the websites, the social network websites they belong to, give their username and their password, so that the applicant's background can be checked. Now, if this were a condition of employment, as you'd been hired and then you were required to turn this data over to the city, it would be a violation of your privacy and illegal, and any right-minded person would refuse. But this is being asked of applicants for a job, not people who work for the city, but people who would like to work for the city. Now, apparently, they think that everyone who's going to come work for them is some kind of criminal, which seems to be a popular concept in America today, that you are in fact guilty and must prove your innocence. But contrary to that idea, that in this country you are in fact innocent until proven guilty. But more importantly, giving over your username and password to a third party, such as the city of Bozeman, is a violation of probably every end-user legal agreement. Facebook, Google, they all say that if you hand over your password to someone else, you're in violation of the agreement you signed when you became a member, because they don't want people sneaking into their system, using another person's account to spam other individuals, to spread propaganda, to potentially hack them in some manner. I'll freely admit that my technical savvy level is low, so I don't know what you can do with someone else's password, but I guess it isn't good, and I'm probably sure that most people who end up with someone else's password are doing nefarious acts. Why the city of Bozeman, Montana would do this is beyond me. I'm hoping that this is just some clueless middle management kind of a decision. Someone who is vaguely aware that the internet exists and wonders, maybe we should check this kind of thing out, and doesn't really understand what the ramifications are of their statement. On a more humorous note, they gave 3 lines on the application form for this information. 3 lines. I could fill that out with just the news group, the message boards I belong to, let alone YouTube, DeviantArt, and any other number of sites that I'm a member of. And I'm not sharing my passwords with anybody. I rarely even pass them on to my wife unless she specifically needs to go into the account and do something for me. They're mine. It's okay. I don't have to spread that information around to anybody. And I'm a firm believer that we as Americans should have a constitutional amendment to protect our privacy. I believe our privacy should be considered just as inviolate as our bodies and our possessions. We have an amendment against illegal search and seizure. I think that your privacy should fall into that category. No one should be able to have your data unless you agree to give it to them, and they aren't allowed to share it with anybody, ever. And the state, big S, state, shouldn't be able to access your data unless they have a court order signed by a judge. Not because a president wants it, not because the NSA or the CIA or the FBI thinks it would be a spiffy idea, because a judge said, yes, you have probable cause to get this information, I will sign this document, and you can now access this person's data. You cannot, however, retain it for any purpose other than the case that you are investigating. I want my privacy protected. But then again, if the government did their job in protecting the American people, protecting their jobs, their health, things like that, we'd be a much better nation. But the American people don't have the ability to bribe politicians. And we've allowed our privacy to be bought and sold on the auction block, just like every other aspect of our nation. Companies trade our data from place to place. Spammers get a hold of it, of course, and they use it against us. I get spam on a regular basis. I'm sure all of us who are on the online do. I've even got spam that was sent from myself to me. It was kind of funny, I'll have to admit that one. And occasionally, when I go to my Google account, I'll just read the spam headlines. It's almost like some kind of bizarre computer-generated poetry in some ways. It's almost interesting. I've considered actually collecting some of them and maybe actually composing poetry out of them. It might be a new form of art. A bit of chaos, a little creativity, and who knows what you can come up with. I know a fellow YouTuber received 419 scam recently, and they had picked a nice British name, because he's a British citizen, of Miller, last name Miller, trying to make it seem like, there was somebody in the area contacting him. But apparently they don't speak English, because they picked the first name Bacon. So he knew right off the bat that it wasn't going to be a legitimate piece of email. But while that's funny, it's not funny when cities, states, or governments seek information that they have no right to possess, that they don't need to possess. This information is ours. We should be able to protect it. Our privacy should be inviolate.